My name is India Foster. Everybody calls me EJ. And this study was about swimming abilities and attitudes. The research question for this study: what selected factors affect swimming ability and attitudes towards swimming among children who are involved in the Splash Mid-South Learn to Swim program? Does gender have an effect on swimming ability and attitudes towards swimming? Does income have an effect on swimming ability and attitudes towards swimming? Does ethnicity or race have an effect on swimming ability and attitudes towards swimming? And is the Splash Mid-South Learn to Swim program an effective program? The purpose of this research study: 1, to explore the selected variables that may be affecting swimming ability for underserved children, and 2, to evaluate the effectiveness of a local free or low-cost Learn to Swim program. This research will provide evidence to guide and to explore how similar programs could benefit all children to more regularly participate in swimming, which could lead to possibly avoiding fatal and non-fatal drowning for the significantly impacted populations. In 2002, for statistical purpose, the World Congress of Drowning defined drowning as the process of experiencing respiratory impairment from submersion or immersion in liquid. That was the World Health Organization in 2014. Worldwide, the unintentional injury of children is considered a major public health problem. The World Health Organization estimated in 2002 that approximately 875,000 children under the age of 15 died as a result of injury. Drowning and public health problem is a public health problem that's claiming thousands of lives yearly in this country. Between 1999 and 2010, more than 46,000 people died from drowning in the United States, and that came from the CDC in 2005. This calculates to more than 4,000 deaths a year, or more than 10 deaths a day. These numbers are alarming especially for people who are age 29 or below. Drowning is one of the top 3 causes of unintentional injury or death in the United States. Since 2005, the motor vehicle traffic incidents have been replaced by unintentional drowning as the leading cause of death from unintentional injury for boys aged 1 and 4. These numbers are even higher for adolescent males. One of the reasons this may be the numbers are higher for adolescent males is because during this time they experience 3 stages of adolescence. The stages are directly connected to physical development and hormones, hormonal imbalance, neither of which is controlled. The young men can't control these behaviors. So many experts believe that the steady rise in injuries for boys during this stage can be attributed to the hormonal imbalances that are occurring during these stages in these young men's lives. It's often categorized as a feeling of invincibility, and this feeling of invincibility causes them to engage in high-risk behavior. While not all drowning deaths can be prevented, in some cases there are ways to prevent drowning deaths. according to the CDC in 2012, taking part in formal swimming lessons reduced the risk of drowning in children aged 1 to 4. However, many people have do not have basic swimming skills that they need to survive. This could be a preventative strategy that's beneficial for persons of all ages. And that is just basically increase your swimming ability. Taking lessons from a certified swim instructor will be beneficial to those who want to learn how to swim. Swimming instruction provides swimmers with techniques and help them with knowing what to do when placed in different situations, including crisis situations, and also how to help someone else if they're in a crisis situation. There's a relationship between swimming ability and a reduction of the likelihood of drowning. Many studies suggest that while swimming ability provides some protection, instruction provides the swimmer with the techniques and help them with knowing what to do when placed in harm's way. And according to Brenner in 2009, his study showed that participation in formal swimming lessons was associated with an 88% reduction of risk of drowning in children aged 1 to 4. And although the estimates were imprecise, it did say that it included a risk reduction ranging from 3 to 99%. Swimming lessons may increase the confidence level in both the swimmer and their guardian. This increased confidence can lead to overestimation of the swimmer's ability and a false sense of security, and increase the number of unintentional deaths. This increased confidence works for the child and for the parent. For example, with the parent, they may feel like, oh, my kid has learned how to swim now, so they aren't as vigilant in watching their children around the swimming pool and in the while they're in the swimming pool. And for the child, they may feel like they know how to swim now and take greater risk as opposed to when they were just learning or didn't think that their swimming ability was as good. As young children become more comfortable around the water, they they may be more attracted to it and more likely to swim alone, swim in unsafe settings, and these things also would cause the number of unintentional drownings to increase. Brenner's 2009 study was important because it shows the results that show swimming lessons do not increase drowning, but there was an 88% reduction in the risk of drowning among those who had swimming lessons. So this study found a protective association between past participation in formal swimming lessons and the risk of drowning in children aged 1 to 4. These results can provide the reassurance that swimming lessons do not increase drowning risk. They actually have an 88% reduction. There is a large disparity in the number of drowning deaths between men and women. In 2014, 71% of the drowning deaths in children up to age 14 were male. Nearly 80% of the people who die from drowning are male. People have hypothesized many reasons for this substantial difference in the number of drowning deaths. In 2008, according to the CDC, regardless of age, race, educational levels, men consistently reported greater swimming ability than men. Men also have a much higher drowning rates, and this may be due to the fact that men during adolescence. They often swim more than. Let me take that back. African American men swim more than African American women. Although drowning rates decline and somewhat plateau around age 25 through 84, there's a drastic increase in male deaths beyond age 85. Female drowning also peaked between 1 and 4, and then there's a sharp decline in the number of drowning deaths around females from 5 to 44. And this again is because of the lack of swimming as opposed to with women as opposed to men. That accounts for that may account for some of the discrepancy in a large difference between the number of men who drown and the number of women who drown. From ages 5 and up, male deaths outnumber female deaths in each age group. And the number of deaths that I'm discussing does not specifically address the reason or the cause of drowning. This is just purely talking about the discrepancy in the number of drowning. So these deaths could range from violent crime, someone, drowning them, or accidental death. According to a report from the CDC in 2008, males may be at higher risk because they can be more likely to overestimate their swimming abilities and choose high-risk activities. And one of the things that they noted was that men tend to drink while they're exposed to water events, not only swimming, but boating, scuba diving, jet skiing, and all those type of things. Men usually have more exposure to those type of events, meaning just simply by the numbers, if they're at these places doing these things more than women are, then they have an increased chance of drowning. As income plays a role in swimming ability and the drowning rates as well. There have been efforts to decrease drowning deaths through pool fencing and supervision and lifeguards. However, these type interventions may not affect those who are at a disadvantage financially. One of the studies, Yang's 2007 study, revealed that most drowning deaths were preventable by having protection on or around pools or pond areas. The study also indicated that most of the incidences of drowning occurred near home or school. In these cases, those pool safety interventions would have significantly decreased those numbers. Much research has been conducted to try and prove a correlation between income and drowning. But the discrepancy in drowning rates between the poor and middle to upper class is possibly because there are fewer opportunities to learn to swim for the poor. Low-income families do not have access to pools on a frequent basis. Since they're not at these places more, their ability to drown are decreased. And oftentimes when because places such as free pools or community pools in disadvantaged communities sometimes aren't open, or neither are they, at motels and hotels. Oftentimes they don't have lifeguards, and so if the kids jump the fence and get into these swimming areas, they often have a detrimental end. One of the studies that noted that white children, ages 1 to 4, have a drowning death rate that is twice that of black children, and that's primarily from residential swimming pools, which means that the more affluent Caucasian Americans have access to pools at their homes, where those kids in the age group 1 to 4 can get into those pools, and that's why their age group has a higher death rate than that of black children who typically do not have pools at their home. And that also explains why there is a sharp increase in the other age groups for African American children as opposed to their counterparts, Caucasian counterparts. I do want to also touch on ethnicity, because it stems directly from the topic of income. The highest rates for all three age groups presented in this paper were for children among children aged 1 year, with rates for whites, which was 5.22 per 100,000 population, higher than those for Hispanics. And between the ages of 1 to 5 years, drowning rates decreased significantly for each racial group. For whites, 83%, for Hispanics, 85%, and 43% for blacks. However, the drowning rates for blacks were significantly higher than those for whites, Hispanic, and every age group from 5 through 19. Many people have, historically, it was thought that blacks didn't swim because of the majority of the communities where black people live, African American people live, did not have pools. Blacks were, during a time of civil unrest here in the United States, blacks were not permitted to use the pools or other public facilities that were designated for whites only. Now today, here in the U.S., swimming pools report that nearly 70% of black children can't swim, while only 41% of Caucasian children can't swim. That was from McLeod in 2013. I do want to also touch on the whether or not the Splash Mid-South program is an effective program. One of the purposes of the study was to evaluate the effectiveness of the Splash Mid-South Learn to Swim program and its ability to serve the underserved youth. The results from this study revealed that there was a significant increase in the self-reported swimming ability among the participants at completion. The increase in it shows that their higher confidence level. One of the questions asked was swimming an activity that swimming is an activity that I enjoy. And for that question, there was an increase. There was an increase in the participants' attitude to the response to that question, along with the other question asked if I would swim more if I had someone to swim with. And as with the other question, there was an increase. Now, these two questions demonstrate that the participants' attitudes are such that after completion of the program, they had more confidence in their swimming ability, which means that the program was effective in that it gave the kids the confidence they needed in order to continue to swim, hopefully, and improve their swimming abilities even more. Their self-reported swimming ability for boys pre-mean for boys was a score of 3. Post was 5.8. Pre-mean for girls, it was 3.2. And post was 6.5. So as you can see, there was a significant increase in both boys and girls in their, once again, self-reported swimming ability. And these numbers indicate that this program, the Splash Mid-South Learn to Swim program, is effective, and it is helping the underserved group, those who are financially unable. And the participants for this particular study were 100% African American. There were 10 boys and 7 girls, which gave me an N of 17. In closing, I just want to point out that a survey conducted by USA Swimming found that roughly 60% of African American children cannot swim. This percentage is nearly twice that of the number of white children, Caucasian children. This study shows that there's a possible connection between the parental ability and the participant, the child's ability. When the participants were asked if they had someone who encouraged them to swim, surprisingly, there was no significant difference between the pre and the post responses. I would like to point out that the fact that the parent enrolled the child in swim lesson confirms that there is encouragement from that parent. If a parent could not swim, it was far more likely that minority families, if a parent could not swim, that's far more likely in minority families than in Caucasian families. If the parent felt that swimming was dangerous, they passed that fear on to the child. And when they thought that it was dangerous, they could get harmed, they passed that fear on to the child. It may not have been intentionally, but it was passed on to the child. And that made the child more unlikely to be a swimmer. Although research, this has been this particular study was a small number, and we did not ask for the parent's swimming ability, but based on the fact that a large number of African Americans do not swim, these parents who enrolled their child in programs like the Splash Mid-South are trying to break that cycle of parents who do not swim passing that fear on to their child, and that child does not swim. You are, in fact, making a generational curse if you are passing those type of fears on to your child. So programs like the Learn to Swim Mid-South, Splash Mid-South program are beneficial and effective, especially in the African American community. Thanks.